Rejecting God's existence and attempting to defeat him is no easy feat. Can our devil in a cute girl's body make it happen? Hey guys, my name is Leia and welcome back to Anime Recap Pro. For today's video, we'll finish off the saga of Tanya the Evil and find out if she wins against a supreme deity. But before we get started, be sure to hit that like button, comment, share, and subscribe. And without any other delays, let's get into the video. We start off as Colonel Sue says goodbye to his family at Port Arnaluz before going to his post in the quiet and far from the front Orze Fjord. A while later, he finds out that his daughter gave him a gun as an early Christmas present. At the same time, Tanya suggests a strategic retreat at the Imperial Army Northern Theater Command Strategy Conference. This would shorten the supply lines for retreating Imperial forces, making it easy for the Imperial Army to resupply and start an offensive in the spring. She says that retreating would keep the war going, but an attack right now would wear out the Imperial Army in Norden and make it less effective. Even so, it's decided that an offensive will happen, no matter how many people might die. During a later conversation with Rurugan and Rudersdorf, she figures out that the main goal of the offensive is to distract the enemy so that the Imperial forces can launch an amphibious offensive at the enemy's back. Rudersdorf decides to send the 203rd to attack the heavily guarded Orze Fjord in a surprise attack before the North Sea Fleet arrives. During the attack, the 203rd is stopped by a group of mages led by Colonel Sue, which is the size of a battalion. Tanya leads the first company to stop enemy mages, while the second and third companies destroy the defensive cannons along the coast. This lets the fleet land and take control of the railroads, which in turn leads Imperial forces to take over the port. The first company does a lot of damage to Sue's mages. In their last fight, Tanya stabs Sue with a bayonet, sending him into the water. Tanya finds Sue's gun and takes it for herself. In Arene City, a rebel uprising against Imperial occupiers is supported by Bientot and the Republican Army's 2nd Mage Company. Arene City is located in former Republican territory in the Western Theater. The large railroad that runs through Arene is now under the control of the Arene rebels, which puts a strain on the Imperial supply lines. Even if it results in civilian casualties, the 203rd is instructed to intercept and eliminate all resistance. They discover that the city is well guarded. However, Strategic Command has a strategy to swiftly put down the Arene uprising because, in accordance with international law, if a city is not evacuated following an order to do so, all inhabitants will be treated as enemy soldiers. The 203rd witnessed the murder of the captured Imperial soldier by Arene rebels due to a refusal to submit or flee, providing a casus belli for retaliation. The Republican mages are completely driven off, and control of Arene is headed back to the Empire due to a sustained attack on Arene by Imperial artillery that kills countless citizens. Despite his refusal, Tanya coerces 2nd Lieutenant Vuan Grants into firing on the Arene insurgents. Zitur informs Rurugan at Strategic Headquarters that Tanya's thesis on how to get around international restrictions on city bombardment inspired the plan to destroy Arene. Colonel Sue, who was seriously hurt during his encounter with Tanya, slowly recovers at an Allied Kingdom hospital and claims that God instructed him to exterminate the devil. Tanya meets Major Uger from the Academy after the battle at Arene. He informs her of a plan called Operation Revolving Door, which consists of 4 distinct phases to withdraw Imperial forces from the Rhine and lure Republican forces into a trap. Zitur arranged for the 203rd to be used in this attack on the Republican forces' rear during the Command Strategy Conference. As the first stage of Operation Fog and Sun, the Empire runs a broad disinformation campaign to deceive Republican forces into believing that the Empire is making a significant threat. Rurugan informs Tanya that the goal of Operation Shock and Aw's 2nd phase is to destroy the Republican Command Center and their communication infrastructure. Skugel declares that the 203rd will be transported to the 3 potential locations of the enemy headquarters using a new high-speed rocket weapon called the V-1. Republican forces confidently advance as Imperial troops retreat from the front of the Rhine. They were unaware as the Imperial army fled, booby traps were left behind. Sue is seen to have lived and be traveling a ship from the Allied kingdoms while planning his revenge on Tanya. After Operation Shock and Awe was a success, the 203rd is now leaving by submarine. At the Imperial High Council, government officials question different military leaders about their withdrawal strategy. They are accused of putting Imperial factories at risk of an attack by the Republicans. They wait to answer, buying time while they wait for Tanya's unit to tell them how things are going. Last but not least, Zatur tells the Imperial High Council that the enemy's command structure has been destroyed and the third phase of Operation Lockpick has begun. It starts with the explosion of the traps that the retreating Imperial army left behind, which caused many Republican deaths. Because they can't talk to each other, the Republican forces are all over the place. Imperial heavy armor and mechanized infantry launch a steady counterattack that completely encircles the Republican forces. Bientot is looking into why the communications broke down when he comes across the ruins of a Republican army's headquarters and is shocked by what he sees. In the fourth stage of Operation Revolving Door, a series of mop-up operations against the remaining Republican army members, the 203rd participates. Suddenly, an allied kingdom mage unit led by Sue attacks them with long-range weapons. The depleted 203rd decides to attack rather than flee. They utilize their elevation advantage, but suffer significant losses, particularly when Sue uses a trench gun that has been magically enhanced. Tanya chases Sue, and when they finally meet, she stabs him. She recognizes him from their previous interaction, but Being X has taken control of him, and he grabs her. Tanya is assisted in escaping by Victoria, and after breaking through Sue's magical defenses, Tanya attacks him with a full magazine. He sets off an explosive while covered in bullets. Still, Tanya and Victoria stop it just in time for a battalion of Imperial reinforcements to arrive and drive the Allied Kingdom mages away. While wounded, the majority of the 203rd has survived. It is demonstrated. After Operation Revolving Door caused Republican forces to suffer significant losses, the Republican army withdrew from Percy, which allowed Imperial forces to occupy the city. The Imperial High Council congratulated the military on its accomplishments and discussed acquiring the colonies of the Republic. Tanya and Victoria discuss the war's end while the men of the 203rd celebrate on a Republican beach. Tanya believes the Republic is preparing to flee by sea to launch a counteroffensive. In addition to being denied permission to conduct her own reconnaissance, she also requests permission to attack the Republican military port of Brest. She laments the chance to put an end to the war. Tanya tries to explain to Rurugan that the Republic and all the other nations will never allow the Empire to become the most powerful country in Europe. But more importantly, that refusing to admit defeat and choosing to keep fighting no matter the consequence is simply part of human nature. As the Empire celebrates the truce that may finally lead to an armistice and so the end of the war, Tanya explains to Rurugan that she is aware of the fact that it's only a matter of time for the war to restart. In fact, the Empire's rapid expansion forced the world's remaining superpowers, the Allied Kingdom, the Rusi Federation, and the Unified States, to band together in opposition to it. The citizens and soldiers of the Empire realize that the war is far from over when General Lugo of the Republican Army declares the birth of the Free Republic from Tunis. Tanya and her team are sent to Africa to start the fight against the Free Republic as the battle resumes. Tanya challenges Being X once more while lecturing her men, claiming that war is evidence that God has failed and man, and especially the soldiers now, hold the power to change the world. To seek retribution for her father's death, Mary Sue joins the US Army and searches for Tanya in the Unified States while endowed with Being X's power. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate your support.